Right away as a thought. Back out.
All right, well, we should be live on YouTube at the present moment. Welcome to the library. Awesome, good to go, Mr. President.
Okay, so I will call the April 20th meeting to order at 6:31. We will do roll call. Larry? Here. Nathan?
Yes.
Kathy? Here. Gerardo?
Here.
Deborah?
Here.
Myself. And cool. Now we need to seat Steve. I need to get a vote on that, or?
Someone needs to make a motion to
Oh,
see
yeah,
Mr.
I make a
Bowden.
motion.
Second.
Okay, so we had first by Nathan, second by Kathy. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstain? Okay,
Just want to let you know that Carl is on as well.
okay. We don't have to see him, right? Okay, welcome, Carl. Now, that was roll call. Public comment, we have no public comment. And next, we have the agenda for tonight. Does anyone have any amendments to be made to the agenda for tonight?
I'd like to request that we do operations first and then services, if that's okay. And I would like to go first. I'd like to do
Switch A and B under number 5. Okay. We have a motion to approve the agenda.
I move to approve the agenda as with the amendments.
Okay, second. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstaining? Okay. Next, for the minutes from last meeting, we do need to remove Brian Escobar from the trustees present and add Steve Bug in there. So anyone would like to move to approve the minutes with the amendments of removing Brian Escobar and adding Steve Bug in trustees present?
I move to approve the minutes with the amendments of removing Brian and adding Steve
Okay,
to the trustees.
I'll second.
okay, thank you, Larry. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, any abstain? Okay, that was approved. Moving on to our library and committee reports. Next, we have the operations report with Anna.
In our operation, the collection management, they always have a consistent flow of material to work on. But this last month, they finished all cataloging all the hotspots. And right now, they are doing some cleanup project for the end of the fiscal year. And if you look at the handout in the middle section, this library operation is the services. That's actually on our website. Somebody had a question about what we order, what material we buy. So if you go to the website, if you find a services, and then it shows catalog, and that's recently ordered. So if you're wondering what we buy, that's in that list. And our IT department just finished they were busy finishing the apps for the public. If you, again, looking at this, our app, the library app, is you can download it from the Apple Store, or if you're on the Android, you can go to Google Play and download it. And our IT department will be giving trainings in the upcoming weeks. And moving down, the IT, you can see like that slide is the seasons, and that's our ELC department downstairs. The IT and maintenance also help set up the ELC to have it fully open at the beginning of the month. And you can see that, you know, the wire yesterday when I took this picture, the wires disconnected, and maintenance just moved those table, and IT have it all set up yesterday. And the maintenance department also finished all 10 little libraries. You can see that the next slide. Francisco made all 10 of them.
Wow.
Yeah, but downstairs, if you want to see the live one, but he did a really good job, and that's what it should be, how it will look like when we put it in the park. And I will give you updates when it's installed. The park district will do the installation. And this week is Earth Week, so Patty from upstairs from admin, today she actually set up a little table right here by customer service to handle baby spider plants. We have a monstrous spider plants, and she just cut up the babies and move them. And if any of you want like a baby, we have upstairs. And again, because of Earth Week, this Friday, we have a shredding event. We serve two purposes. One is just give our patrons a place to shred the documents, and also the library can do our document disposal. We do that once every 2 or 3 years. And if it's stay approved, then we need to get certificate. So that's what's happening with operations.
And you need to seat Rebecca.
I don't think we do because it's in live and in person, so if it were virtual, then yes.
Okay.
Carl, please correct me if I'm wrong. Welcome to unmute. Do we need to see the person who came in a few minutes late? Carl? Do we need to see Rebecca, who came in a couple minutes after we got started?
If you can't hear me.
Hello, do we need to seat Rebecca, Carl?
You need to do what?
Rebecca came in a couple minutes late. Do we need to seat her? Or because we're live and in person, do we need to have after the fact seating? Or was that just virtual meetings?
Yeah, you can just say in the minutes to reflect that she arrived at whatever time she arrived.
6:33.
Okay, cool.
Awesome.
Thank you.
You're officially here.
Yes, I am. I'm here. I
Um,
don't have a baby.
I remember.
Thank you, Carl, and thanks Rebecca for being here. Thanks everybody for being here. I'm here to give you the services report. So to piggyback off of what Anna said, I'll be out in the parking lot much of Friday from 12 to 3, which is our shred event. Feel free to bring, tax day was Monday. So bring those 7-year-old tax documents and shred them away at our lot, back parking lot through Paper Tiger, the company that will be doing the shredding. We're not doing electronics recycling this year, but just paper shredding. Excuse me. We've had, if you'll go on to the second page, I will talk about library services, and I'll kind of go clockwise, starting with the young lady in the upper left-hand corner. We had a very successful succulent program for the children's departments. They had lots of registrations. It was a full registration that took place on April 13th. So kids were able to decorate and make their own do-it-yourself succulent garden. Terrarium. This is National Volunteering Week, and we want to especially thank all the volunteers who gave back to their community. You see in the center picture there, a tutor and his or her tutee. Actually, that's his tutee, they're learning and together, and they've been back in person doing a tutoring program here at the library again. So that's really great to see education and literacy services picking back up. In the upper right-hand corner, a picture of One Woman Hamlet. We are partnering with, what's the name of the group? Sorry, pardon me. Connecting Routes is the name of the program. They're a Chicago-based performance troupe. They like to travel by train to the location where they put on their play. So she will be doing a one-woman and puppets program about Hamlet, and it happens to be about the stigma on mental health. That's on May 5th at 4:30 p.m. We have in the bottom right-hand corner our summer concert series coming back to the library every Friday from 12 to 1. We will have concerts out in our courtyard, and hopefully food vendors will join us so we can provide lunch for the passersby and some music. We will still be doing our art walk concerts on Saturday, the third Saturdays of the evening. That's again an opportunity to be out in the community doing things. But we will be bringing back the summer concerts, sponsored graciously by our friends of the library. In the middle of the page is Jeff Tweedy and Nick Offerman. They are our April 27th Illinois Libraries Present group. They are also authors as well as musicians and actors, so they will be presenting on their books more than likely, but it is a registration program. I encourage everyone to go onto our website and register for this. It's pretty neat. My wife and I went to the one last month for Jenny Lawson. It was pretty decent. And again, world-class performers, writers, authors, and musicians, etc., coming right to our library virtually. So great to have Illinois Libraries present. In the left-hand corner, bottom left-hand corner, is the Rosalind Franklin Care Coach. And we are offering free health screenings once a month through Rosalind Franklin. Thank you to our partnership with Rosalind Franklin. They do blood pressure checks, blood sugar, cholesterol, body mass index, and health education. And so they do that for free at no charge for our patrons. And they actually grab people on the sidewalk because they want people to participate that badly. So if you know anybody who might want one of those tests, please send them our way next time we have the care coach on our property. Turning to the next page, our Friends of the Public Library, Waukegan Public Library will be having a Friends book sale on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday this week. Friday from 4 to 6. It's Friends only. But lucky for you, you can join the Friends for only a $10 fee. So you can shop the sale early on Friday evening from 4 to 6 if you so desire to become a friend of the library. Otherwise, open to the public from 10 to 2 on Saturday and Sunday. We will be having book sales in this space right here, and it's open to the public. They raise funds. They're having far fewer of the book sales every year. They've been doing Amazon sales on Amazon, which have been doing gangbusters for their fundraising capacity. So our super great friends in the library have sponsored not only the little free libraries that you saw in one of the previous slides, but also all of our summer concerts and any number of different projects. And when we want to give away a prize, our friends are the ones to sponsor the cost of that prize rather than passing that on to the taxpayer. So incredibly generous group of people. And so I encourage you, if you have a need for some gently used library or unused library, brand new books they sell at these book sales. So please stop in. Last but certainly not least, our partners are being welcomed back into buildings such as the Lake County Nature Network and Goodwill Great Lakes. Just today, a gal from Goodwill Great Lakes was here doing job training, registration. You could actually go and apply for jobs right here, right now, and actually be awarded a job by working with the young lady in the upper left-hand corner of this slide. To the right.
Library will be closing in 15 minutes. Please
And in
make
Spanish,
final
too.
selections and proceed to the self-check station. La biblioteca se cerrará en 15 minutos. Por favor, haga sus selecciones finales y proceda a una estación de self-check.
Our community and engagement and outreach coordinator, Jennifer Cordova, has been out and about in the community. There she is with our colorful Waukegan Public Library flag at the Egg Extravaganza across the way at the parks at Bowen Park. So she participated, handed out lots and lots of candy and goodies and information about the library. We've been partnering with Waukegan Public Schools. Our children's staff will be going to Waukegan Public Schools on Earth Day to present a craft. Boys and Girls Club, Jennifer Cordova, our outreach coordinator, again, went to the 1st, 2nd, and 4th ward meeting held on April 14th. at Boys and Girls Club to present information about the library and services that we offer. And last but certainly not least, in the bottom left-hand corner there, where we had the Lake County Nature Network that brought a salamander to our library. And so they were there tabling right on the main floor, getting the attention for their organization and helping to spread information into our community about this great organization. Other than that, I am sad to announce that one of our beloved staff members, almost 10 years, June Denham, passed away unexpectedly on Saturday night. And so there's a picture of Jean. She was a great friend and a great employee, a great person, just really genuinely nice. One of the first people to be nice to me at our library and remained that way the whole time. So she was just a really wonderful lady, kind heart, and was willing to give everything for everybody. And so this is in memory of Jean. There's a picture of her. And if you guys have a moment or want to say a prayer a little later, we appreciate it. Her family could sure use the support.
Is there an address to mail cards?
If you want to deliver cards to us, we will send them out for the library staff and for board members.
Thank you.
And we did a nice flower bouquet for her funeral. Her viewing is on Sunday from 2 to 5 in Gurnee. I'm not sure exactly the place title, but at St. Dismas on Monday is the funeral from 9 to noon or so. And that is my report respectfully submitted. Thank you for the opportunity to serve.
Thank you, John. Next, we have our Finance and Audit Committee report with Larry.
Thank you. Right, well, we met before our board meeting, reviewed the first document we reviewed, should be in your packet, as the Waukegan Public Library summary of actual versus budgeted results for the 11 months ending on March 31st of 2022. Anna was there to help explain it, and from her explanation and from our review, everything looked within normal expectation. That the tech services have had some impact due to increased telephone line costs. Under expenditures, item 60000. Under item 52000 under expenditures, administrative services were a little higher than expected. That was due to, as Ann had told us, the appraisal of the Ray Bradbury collection, which was done some months ago. The library had not budgeted for that, and so that increased that area somewhat. And it did give us the good news that the library will end up in the black, and it's headed in a good way. So that is our review of that. Any questions on this document? Okay, moving onward to the Waukegan Public Library monthly board check detail for the period of March 1st to March 31st of 2022. We reviewed it thoroughly. Everything seemed to be in order, well explained. And having said that, I would make a motion to approve. Our board did approve to bring it to the overall board for approval. So with that, I make a motion to approve the Waukegan Public Library monthly board check detail for the period of March 1st to 31st of 2022.
I'll second.
And we will now vote. Steve?
Yes.
Okay. Rebecca?
Yes.
Nathan?
Yes.
Kathy?
Aye.
Gerardo?
Aye.
Deborah?
Aye.
Larry?
Aye.
Myself, aye. And everybody, Cassie,
Thank you.
thank you. A quick update about the search committee. The executive director job posting has gone live. We are receiving applications, and another update, the firm has completed a salary benchmarking. So that's all there really is to update at the moment. Cool. Any questions about that? Okay, I think I know. Up next on new business is a committee of the whole transition. So like I mentioned at the retreat, the idea of moving from standing committees to committee of the whole. I had drafted a bit for like the bylaws that would kind of come up with the rules for it. It's still very much a rough draft. Yeah. So I don't think we need to change the bylaws just yet to start this process. Because it would just be a special meeting, if I'm correct, John and Carl. But the only thing that would change is that if you are a chairperson of a standing committee, you'd be the person of that section during committee of the whole. And after we try this out a month, we can see how we like it. We want to make that change to the bylaws. Does anyone have any questions or anything?
So how would it work again? Would all of the different committees meet at the same time every month and then separately to discuss their areas?
All together, so we would meet as a committee of the whole, so all 9 members would meet. And we would still have an agenda similar where it starts with finance, whatever, finance, governance, development, and then a general one. And that's where we could have discussions of those things that would be on the agenda. So fundraising topics for development or policy review or governance or the check details and all those things. So we have those discussions only once. We get to hear that. It's still public. It's still posted. Then it just, when we get together, instead of only 3 to 4 people talking about it, we have everybody, which should make it so that when we have the meeting, we don't have to really add anything, or there can still be discussion, of course. Wouldn't be like, don't talk at all, but kind of help.
Cut down on redundancy.
Right, and also make it a little easier for John, everybody that's in multiple, instead of meeting multiple committees, you'd only have to meet the one time, and then our regular board meeting.
Would then the various areas come up before the general board meeting, just as we did, for instance, with the finance committee for approval of, for instance, the check detail, that meeting versus the committee of the whole would, well, there would be some recommendation, but then there would still be ultimate action taken by the board at board meetings. Is that how it would work?
Yes, this would just be to make those recommendations, but we'd just be all together. Instead of splintered as the separate committees. Also, just so that we can get some broader topics looked at, and like, for example, with the policy, when we looked at the library, use of the library one, it was probably discussed, that was before I was part of that committee, but probably discussed.
The library will be closing in 5 minutes. Please prepare to exit the building. La biblioteca se cerrará en 5 minutos. Por favor, prepárate para salir del edificio.
They probably discussed that during the governance committee, but then prior to everyone, where the probably similar discussions happened again. So, yeah. Any other questions? I know when I first brought it up, asking John and Anna what like might be issues, I know right now there's kind of a timeline crunch for getting the actual versus budgeted report to the committee. As but yes, John, if you want to.
I can explain that the concept is with the check register, it's all passed. So when you're approving the check detail, it's already been paid, all the bills have been paid and it's after the fact. So you're a month old. The information is about 3 weeks old by the time you receive it. Now, 2 weeks because you're getting the packets of board packets a week earlier, but ideally Anna closes out the books and has to reconcile said books each month with the bank, what's the word? Bank reconciliation. So what that takes a little bit of time, can't be gotten until like the second or third of the month sometimes, maybe even that's pushing it. Bank recs come like sometimes even a week after, so we would still provide the budget to actual during the board meeting for approval, a week in advance as we have that. You just wouldn't, what you would see at the committee of the whole or the group meeting that you were talking about having the first Wednesday of the month would be basically instead of 3 weeks old information, let's say 5 weeks old information. So we're just looking at January's during the March meeting instead of February's March meeting. So it does put a little lag on the budget to actual, but if there were ever a red flag, we would alert or inform the board. And thus far, in my 4 years here, we have had no red flags. So the information could very easily be shared. It would just be a little bit more dated than it currently is, but I don't see, if you're already seeing it 3 weeks after the fact, what's the difference between 3 weeks and 5 weeks? It would still be sooner than 2 months, which is ideal. In terms of bookkeeping, I don't know any other best practices. This is just a suggestion. We don't have to do it that way. We can still talk about ways to get the information out, but it does make more sense to do it, as we have been with a little bit older information.
And going off that, looking at some of the, like Warren Newport that also does the committee of the whole, if I'm understanding their agendas and minutes correct, they're looking at the 2 months old during those. So we'd still be doing more recent. The other idea that I thought of with John is that we could just push that section to be part of the regular board meeting. But then we'd have to start like figuring out what the finance section would do, so. Yeah.
There once was a time in board meetings past where we approved the budget to actual and also the check register, but there was no purpose in approving the budget to actual because that was an ongoing check, balance of our accounts. It didn't need to be formally, today. Didn't need to be formally approved during the board meeting, but the spending does. And that's what we stopped doing the approval of the budget to actual. I mean, it is facts. It's not proven. You can't disapprove of fact.
Right.
It is what it is, and we can't say, well, I disagree and say yay to everything. And well, I'm sorry, we should have more money in there. Well, the whole goal is to make sure we're providing transparency and accurate information in a timely manner.
If you look at the last page that I have on there of the bylaws that I drafted up, under where it says topics for committee of the whole, another thing that I've noticed that we don't really address in our standing committees is under the finance and audits is planning for and monitoring the continual development of library properties and conducting an annual inspection of facilities to recommend repairs. So I did include that under that section, along with
The
monitoring.
library is now closed. Please exit the building. La biblioteca ahora está cerrada. Por favor, salga del edificio.
Included the monitoring library investments. And then the others are pretty much the same, except just kind of highlighting that with governance that we would do more of the executive director evaluation, performance evaluation that I don't know if has happened. So the only things I really added there.
Did you get those ideas from looking at the, you said Warren Newport's committee of the whole ideas, or
I got those from like so many
so
libraries
many
in Lake
places?
County.
Yeah.
I looked at what standing committees, I'd say at least 10 to 12 libraries in Lake County are doing, and checked with what they had, what we did not address in our standing committees. And tried to fit them in, so it's still like three, doesn't have to be three, we could have other places. I saw school boards that do committee of the whole, and they have like 5 sections. It doesn't really matter, it's arbitrary, but it allows us to have people that are kind of leading the charge on certain aspects. Right, I know our idea is to start it on the first Wednesday of the month, that we would do this. Is there any conflicts with that for anybody, if that we started meeting the first and the third? The first would be for the committee of the whole, the third would be for the regular board meeting.
What time would that be?
Same time. Could be flexible depending on all of you all, I mean, it's up to you guys.
Hey, Rob, this is Steve. Is the idea to have it at the beginning of the month to give time for items that come out of that to be put on the agenda versus doing the committee meeting of the whole on the same day as the board meeting? So is the idea you separate it out, so you're trying to discuss those items and then that gives the staff time to either do research or to put them on the official agenda? Is that
Correct, that is a very good explanation of what I was trying to say. Yes.
gotcha?
So just like how we do for governance, where we meet at the beginning of the month to be able to look at policy, to then recommend it for it to be on the agenda. It's the same concept, yeah. Those same topics that are brought up then would then be voted on at the board.
And is your feeling then that the meeting of the whole would be able to do the same type of work that each committee is doing as far as digging down into the detail level that a committee would do? I'm having a hard, so I understand the concept, but I'm having a hard time visualizing, true committee work, right? Digging down, working through things, recommending things. And I have a hard time just visualizing, bringing all those together in one meeting. If we're going to be doing all that, is that going to, from a time commitment perspective for everyone, I can see us being there for hours if we're doing the committee work in totality, right? So versus today, right, a committee, they do their committee work, they dig down into the details, they're making their recommendations back, use the level of degree that finance goes into when they're looking at their committee work. So are we saying we're going to lift up that same amount of work and just move that into one meeting? Every committee meeting is going to meet that night. And from, I'm not so concerned for myself of a time perspective, but others may have timing issues on how long they're going to be there for that meeting. I'm more concerned about is, do you feel the quality of work is going to be the same when you bring a meeting together of the whole versus the standing committees?
That is a very good question. Right now, there is been trying to think of the best way to phrase this. A difficulty with keeping our standing committee schedules consistent and consistently meeting with governance and with development and getting a quorum for those committees.
Mm-hmm.
So right now, I think the knowing that if we have more people, that would instantly make that depth that is going into better, because right now it's not there. I do understand your, I get what you're saying. I do think that if there are, issues that need more delving, I'm sure we could always have, special meetings or separate meeting, like committee meetings to go through that deeper if needed. Does that answer? Not really.
No, I think that does answer kind of the process of what you're trying to look to accomplish and why. From, just from my perspective being new, I don't have the history that you all have on how those meetings have functioned and what you've been able to accomplish. I can only use my other board experience with committee structure and how those things are accomplished, but I certainly understand and appreciate if things aren't maybe the way that they need to be now, how can we look at other options to accomplish what we have? So thank you for that clarification. Certainly helps since I'm a newbie and have not had that experience.
Oh, yeah, I appreciate your input. I definitely that is something to think about. And if we notice that there is a lack of depth that's going into that committee of the whole, looking at these items, then there is a section that I included in the draft bylaws that we can always vote. And if this isn't going well, we just stop it.
And
Kathy?
Is there a possibility that if something had to be gone into in more depth, that we have a breakout room or something of that sort? Is that appropriate?
That is a good question. I think we'd have to ask Carl.
That's what I'm thinking.
We could also still discuss it at our regular board meeting as well, because this will take some of the brunt of that and put it from all those other meetings and put it on to that meeting, which if there is spillover, we can always discuss at our regular board meetings as well. Yeah.
If I may, one of the things that Rob and I have discussed is that our board meetings have started to venture into the 2 and 3 hour long meeting period. And that ideally the goal is to split it so that we spend the bulk of our time in the committee as a whole and then come into a meeting of the regular meeting and do our business in 30, 45 minutes and be out the door. So ultimately, in terms of time commitment, it's roughly the same, roughly 3 hours a month, an hour and a half for the first meeting, an hour and a half for the second meeting. But ideally, as Kathy, could we split out and do separate meetings? Sure, we can have as many meetings as we want. If we want to allocate a half hour for governance, a half hour for finance, and a half hour for development, and we start to hit the red zone and it's been 35 minutes and we need to maybe break out and talk about governance a little bit more in depth with the governance committee, or the governance chair would pick a couple people perhaps. That would be, we can always have more meetings. Right, I think the goal is to have a majority of the discussion in the committee of the whole meeting so that when we come to our regular board meetings, we're strictly business and not as much discussion. We got far too deep into the weeds of asking, well, what's this expense and what's that expense? And when there's been more than ample opportunity to ask those questions beforehand, but to have this dialogue early rather than late, like where we ended up tabling something that needed to be moved on and slows up the process of the operations of the library. So again, I think this is an encouraging step. And as Rob said, if we don't like it, we can always go back, which is why I'm encouraging y'all not to change the bylaws right away. Try it and see how it works. And if it works for the group, then we stick with it and we continue to conduct business in this way. That way when we're seeing a governance committee is seeing a policy, we've been working with it on our end for at least a month before the governance committee gets a hold of it. So it really is about a 2-month process to change policy. Ideally, it's just not rushed from 2 weeks before the regular meeting to here, let's hurry up and get this thing through and move on to the next thing. It's putting time and thought into it. And we have no policies presented tonight because we really needed more feedback on the one that we were presenting. And so taking the time and doing it right rather than rushing through and trying to do business for the sake of doing business.
I'm just curious, Rob,
Yeah.
have do the other libraries that you looked at, sounds like you looked at a number of them, have 2 meetings a month then to undertake this sort of the committee of the whole and then the board meeting at some point?
Yes, the other library I could find in the area that does that is Warren, and they have their 2 meetings, so they just have the committee of the whole meeting, and then the regular meeting.
Mhm. So the only thought I have is that, I mean, that's 2 meetings a month, and, I'm not speaking for myself necessarily, but everyone's pretty busy that I'm aware of, and to have another meeting, 2 meetings is one more meeting every month, plus the one we already have for this. And another angle that might be worthy of consideration is that like the finance committee, we meet the same night of the board meeting. So we meet about 45 minutes before the board meeting. So perhaps a way to have just 1 meeting every month, to have have the other committees meet the same night as the board meeting. And then they could have their sessions and then bring back, so there's not 2 meetings every month. There would be just 1 meeting. Well, there would actually be two meetings, but it would be on the same night. It would be a little earlier, but that's another possibility, just to, to be cognizant that we're all very busy and sometimes it might be tough to make 2 meetings every month.
I completely see what you're saying. Right now, for John and I, we are attending regular governance when it's happening, development when it's happening. He's attending finance, this meeting. So I think, yes, I completely understand that view. And we also have many board members who are on more than 1 committee. So they are still meeting 2 to 3 times a month as well, which would help reduce that. And I don't know if we really be able to do all of them at the same time, because then we have to lower who's in multiple committees, which then I don't know how that would kind of do that. And also we can't have John in everywhere, and I don't know about the
that's true.
public viewing of that. So I completely understand what you're saying, and I think we can see how it goes.
Rob, if I could.
Yes.
Some of our clients that do a committee of the whole, they use it as the general discussion and working things out. And if they do it on the same night, they'll do it an hour in advance of the Board of Trustees meetings. And most of the things then that are on the committee of the whole are set over for the next month's trustees meeting. And, so it's one night, a committee of the whole meeting followed by an hour later, the Board of Trustees meeting. And, sometimes the times bleed over into each other a little bit. But, that's another way to do it. Now, the other one, that if you want to do the committee of the whole early in the month and then the trustees meeting later, so that you're doing at your business meeting whatever was discussed at the committee of the whole. One way you get it done in a month, the other one you generally move things to the next agenda of the trustees after the committee of the whole. So there's different ways you can go about it. All of them are acceptable and all of them can work.
Okay. Thank you, Carl.
You're welcome.
I think that there's one of the benefits too of the committee of the whole is I think it would keep us all in the loop better on what is going on. And so I know we get the packets ahead of time, but to be a part of the discussion of like, oh, okay, this is why the development committee wants to do, or this is why we're doing this as part of the development committee. And also as far as timing on one night, in one sense, that would be really nice to just have one night. On the other hand, I usually get off of work at like 5:30, 6 o'clock. And so getting here earlier would be a bit of a stretch.
Okay. This isn't something we're really voting on, but you just have
Thumbs up.
a special, well, I guess, yeah, a straw poll. Howard, who's in favor of trying out committee of the whole for the, what month is it? May, for the month of May. With the star poll I just asked, they'll just say, not really an aye or nay, they just say yes or no. So,
How about a show of hands?
show of hands, who is in favor of trying that committee of the whole in the month of May? And, sorry, Steve, what's your virtual hand doing?
So I'm fine with trying it out, but I'm actually out of town that week, out of the country,
Okay.
so I wouldn't attend that meeting, but I'm fine with moving forward with it.
Okay, yeah, and good. So that'd be the first Wednesday. So if I'm remembering correctly, that'd be May 4th.
Force is strong with you.
Yeah,
That long.
it'd be that meeting, same place, same time. Cool.
7 p.m., 6:30, would it be?
I think that's fine. 6:30. Okay, so that was the committee of the whole. Cool. Next is our trustee facts files, chapter summary share outs. Everyone did it digitally, and I was mostly able to get them on in the meeting document so that we'll be able to share them with everybody. Everyone will have that summary. Let's just do a couple of them tonight, just because I know we don't have everyone here. So in order to let Jean be able to present hers next time and to spread it out, let's just do 4 of them tonight. So would anyone volunteer to give their chapter summary?
I'll go.
Okay.
I had the exciting facilities. And reading through it, the thing that really hit me was that they talked a little bit about the Chicago Public Library and how they went through all their changes, you know, when they built the Harold Washington Library. So it hit home because I was downtown now. And I used to meet people at the library when it got built. So anyway, basically what this facilities is about is, you know, the building. It's the library trustees, our responsibility, and the head librarian, which I'm saying is the executive director, to make sure that this building is functioning properly, that everything is in working order, and that we are meeting the needs of the community, you know. So as a matter of fact, the article did say that we should, in addition to our input and the head librarian's input, we should consider what the community wants for the library. So we're talking about, you know, strategic planning. For instance, we can take a look back into when did this library get built in 1965? So at that time, we could say that the Carnegie was not meeting the needs of the community or was falling apart. I don't know, I wasn't here, maybe somebody can help me out with that, but in any event, the community made a decision to move the library from the Carnegie to here. So basically it said that one of the things that we need to do as a committee and the head librarian is to do regular annual checks on certain things. Particularly, I have them listed here, making sure that we are in compliance with the American and Disability Act, you know, making sure that we have access for people who are handicapped. We should look at our shelving space. We should make sure that our furniture is adequate. And I see that we did add a new bean bag for our teenagers. We should make sure that the staff areas are up to par, you know, what the staff would want to go in and use them. Make sure that our facilities for technical support is up to par. For instance, you want to make sure that your computers and things of that nature are stored in an area that's cool enough for them. Make sure that the lighting is good, because people don't want to come to the library and they can't see what they're reading or looking at. The circulation should be good. The reference department, children's services, which I think we've done a lot of work with this library and the children's services. The meeting rooms, I can go through all of them, but they're in the packet. So these are things that we should be looking at as on a regular basis as the trustees, along with the head librarian and the staff, to make sure that everything is functioning properly. Now, one thing that Rob added in his bylaws, for the new bylaws that we may be adopting, is taking a look to make sure that there is a budget available to take care of the things that need to be upgraded in the library. For instance, I think I heard you say, John, that we need a new furnace, or did you say that?
Hot water heater.
Okay, I know it was something. So in any event, it's just making sure that the facility is running in tip-top shape and we don't let things fall apart. And then the worst case scenario is like what happened in 1965, when you have to say, hey, we need a whole new facility. Then the article talks about, what you need to look at. You need to look at the overall space needs for the community. How is the space going to be broken down into various departments? How do these areas relate to one another? What furniture and equipment will be best to put into that new facility? And then the basic thing is making sure you get the funding. They said that there's grants for it. And then you can also get bonds from the libraries in your municipality. And then they also said that there's grants available at the Illinois State Library Administrative. I can't even read my own writing, but anyway, there's loans and grants available for it. So I don't think we're gonna have to be worried about that for a while. Hopefully that this facility is in well enough shape that it can serve the community for years to come. So that's it.
Thank you.
Well done.
If I can piggyback off of the financial is a very big piece. I had chapter 4, which is the finances of the library. When I first started working in libraries, I realized that I learned the term steward of the public trust. And we are fiduciarily responsible for the budget and the operations of the library. One of the more expensive pieces being the physical building. And secondarily, probably the collection and the technology are very close in cost and operating. But more specifically, I have notes. As stewards of the public trust, we have to continuously check the finances and make sure that we are spending money according to our policy, our mission and vision. Let's see, we have to have an organized board with written bylaws and official and elected officers, or written bylaws and appointed officers in this case. We meet regularly in accordance with the OMA so that we have regular meetings to check the finances. We provide written minutes, which are graciously provided by our executive assistant Susan and our secretary. Maintaining audio and video recordings, provide bonding for the treasurer and other people financially responsible for the library, and we submit annual reports to the host municipalities. So not only are we responsible to the city, but also to the state for our reporting. The library submits an annual report with the Illinois State Library with regards to our numbers, CERC and all that good stuff. And then we conduct business according to federal, state, and local laws that dictate a lot of the stuff we can and can't do. Like I can't just write a check over to Patrick over there and say, here's a new Tesla for you. I can't just do that. I have to have a purpose behind using the library's money for purposes. So as Deborah mentioned, ADA is a big one. Fair Labor Standards Act, FLSA, we have minimum wage and prevailing wage laws, Family Medical Leave Act. We do offer insurance, and there's a Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act of 1996, that's HIPAA. And then the Drug-Free Workplace. Trustees and the directors should work in conjunction with the library system, the state library, ILA. There are a lot of acronyms that you'll hear at these meetings that we need to kind of go for best practices. So finding out how others are doing it and getting recommendations from our bigger brother and sister organizations like the city and ILA, ALA, PLA, and RAILS, our local consortium, great places to find information. So basically we are similar in status to a corporation. We have similar rules of operation with the lawful authority of our positions. Personal liability is minimal. So when we conduct business as a library, your personal liability is minimal unless you start making personal claims and so forth, which makes, again, it's maybe more Carl than John in finance, but in terms of ways to minimize the risk of liability, we comply with all these OMA rules. We carefully follow procedures. We post rules and regulations openly, so transparency is a big piece of it. We review financial records regularly and pass our audits with flying colors. We file all mandatory reports promptly, and most importantly, we review things on a regular basis. And last but certainly not least, we can minimize our risk of liability by carefully avoiding possible conflicts of interest. If we suspect that there's a conflict, like Deborah wants to hire, all of her family to come work at the library, that would be a conflict of interest. We'd have to address that openly rather than, oh, well, maybe give Deborah's cousin a job, and that would be okay. We have to make sure we address it openly. If an issue comes before the board and we don't have the information, requesting tabling and or abstaining from voting helps reduce our conflict of interest. We review minutes regularly and perform those trustee duties that you perform to the best of your ability and in good faith. So again, financially responsible, fiscally responsible for library trustee. Chapter 4 is a legal and liability issue. It's more than anything, more than finance. It's as steward of the public trust, we have legally liable things we're liable to as trustees and as staff members. And so that's chapter 4, legal and liability.
Cool. Thank you, John.
And then I can tag on to that. So I had chapter 10, which fits directly into what John was alluding to as well on the budgeting and finance management. So certainly we know we receive our income primarily from the city of Waukegan, which is based on property taxes. Thanks to Anna and John for filling in some of the blanks on the questions I had. But they had indicated that the library received in 2021, 15.7% of the levy, which was about $4,608,187. And that we are a home rule unit of government in Waukegan. We collect no special taxes that is allowed for libraries. And then there's a section on state grants and federal LSTA grants. And we have received grants from the Secretary of State's Literacy Grant Fund. However, we've not received federal grants, so potentially an opportunity at some point in the future. We can also receive grants from other organizations, and we have received grants and funds from local foundations and also from not-for-profit organizations. There is E-rate funding from the federal government that's available, and that's through the Federal Communications Commission. And we have looked into that grant. However, we don't have the filtering software that supports internet connections as required by regulation in order to apply for the grant. Under charitable donations, we have received many gifts from private citizens and organizations. And that is an area that is encouraged from our local community citizens and from those local companies. And as John alluded to, library expenditures are also addressed as part of the budgeting process, as well as the lines of responsibility in Chapter 10. And then they detail out the steps in the budgeting process, as well as budgeting guidelines that as a library we should follow. And then indicating that financial management of the library is the responsibility of the board, the director, and staff who implements the budget that is approved by the board. And then the type of library funds are the operating, which is to pay the day-to-day expenses and to deposit our regular sources of income. Capital, which pays for special large expenses. The endowment, which may be established to receive and invest monetary charitable donations, and then working cash to have sufficient funds to meet demands for ordinary and necessary and committed expenditures. And then there is the section on reporting and auditing that's required as well. And then a fun fact from Anna and John, that as of the end of February, the foundation account was at $106,254. and the capital account was at $1,007.82. So Chapter 10 really focused on a deep dive of budgeting and finance management, and a great opportunity for me as a new trustee to really dig in and learn more on the budgeting and finance management. So thanks.
Thank you, Steve. I really liked how you added all the like explanations of how it tied in with our library in your summary.
Thanks to John and Anna for answering my many questions. So I thank them.
Amy,
I'll do-
okay.
I had chapter 13, which is public relations. A good public relations program is needed to make the public aware of our services and the programs that we offer at our library. Board members, we all have different backgrounds. We have different connections. We have different ways to spread the news. So we are all public relations ambassadors for the library. Media coverage is a possibility with public relations, but it usually comes at a cost. So if we want to do that, we need to put that in our budget. But there's a lot of low cost or cost-free ways to spread information. We can do board presentations at civic groups, or staff presentations. We can use social media, which I think is used very well here. I'm on Facebook and see all of the postings that the library does, and I think you guys do a very good job of that. I don't know who does that, but it's well done. We have to learn from the public. We have to talk to people. We have to get positive, negative feedback and react to it. And also we have the ALA and ILA and whatever, John, whatever, PLA. They often sponsor campaigns showcasing services, and they're a good resource too that we can use for public relations.
Thank you. Cool. What? Okay.
Could I round it out with finances and PR? I have fundraising.
Okay.
Marries both of them together. It's something that really energizes me. I have a lot to say, and I will, but I'm just kidding. Feel free to take a sheet and pass it down. So the general summary of this chapter is how libraries get the majority of their money from property taxes. And those funds could only go so far, so libraries turn them to grants and fundraising. And the chapter goes on forward to, well, why do people make donations? Mostly tax incentives. And then how do you get these donors to donate, but then perhaps continuing on those donations? So you explain what you're doing, why you're fundraising, how much money is going to, and be transparent on how these funds will be utilized and further activated and spread around the facilities. But they do make a big note, and one that resonated with me a lot was saying thank you and acknowledging your donors and further building that trust, and not being confidential with the amount being donated. And honestly, that's pretty much it within fundraising. Knowing your scaling of what you want to do and how you want to go about it, be cognizant of what resources are available to you.
Yeah, cool. Well, I think that'll be a good place to stop there and do the rest next month. Just so that we can work on getting out of here on time. Up next is the good of the order, our comments. On the last page in the board packet, you can see my report. Just keep you updated with what I'm doing. And yeah, that's really it.
You spend a lot of time.
Yeah. That's fun. Yeah, now I guess trustee comments. Probably to make it easy, we'll start with Steve.
Nothing on my end, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Steve. Rebecca?
No, thank you.
Larry?
We had at our recent trustee retreat, we had some pictures taken of our board as a joint. Yeah. And I would like to get a picture or two of that. When able, and so I can show folks, yes, I'm actually on a library board. It'd be a great opportunity. So that's all I have to say. Everyone, thank you for the privilege of serving with such a distinguished group. Thank you.
Well, I think it would be appropriate if we had a moment of silence and reflection for Jean. If it's okay with you, I'd like to offer up a prayer, if that's, if everyone feels comfortable with that.
I would love that.
Okay, let's pray. Good and gracious God, we thank you for the life of Jean. Thank you, Father, for the warmth that she brought into my family's life. And every time we walked in the library, we thank you, Father, for the way that she influenced this community for good, for the lives that she made better by her presence and her service here. We lift up her family before you. We pray, Father, for their comfort during the grieving process. And we pray, Father, that you would be with them. And I pray this in your name. Amen.
Amen.
I have no comments.
I wanted to show appreciation for the Wi-Fi hotspots. I don't remember exactly how many we have. John?
300.
300. My family took a trip out to California, a road trip, and they saved our butts several times while driving through Nevada. And I was able to recommend it to a friend who also used it on their recent road trip, and it helped them a lot as well. So when they're available, come get them.
Lots of them available.
And also fully inventoried, I believe, as just reported. Yeah. Catalog. There we go. We finished. Nice.
No comments.
Okay. I'll go off Gerardo's and just say use a Wi-Fi hotspot or any Wi-Fi to download the new library app. I got it. That's how I discovered that my library card was expired. And so I was able to get that fixed today. So huzzah for me. Yeah. Thank you, everyone. Yep. And we have a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I'll second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstain? Okay, so the meeting over at 7:30. Thank you, everyone. We'll see you on the 4th for our committee, our trial run of the committee of the whole. And then
Someone will send an email on that.
what?
Someone